What's going on, everybody? Hope you are having a wonderful week so far. Before we start, give us a subscribe. Send it to your mates if you like this episode. I will love you forever if you do that. Big love. Anyway, podcast time. Enamour, a.k.a. Michael Gold. I've known Michael for quite some time. We talk about it on the podcast, and I've known him from not being a producer DJ and wanting to be a producer DJ to becoming a successful producer DJ, with some of his records having multi-million streams on Spotify, headlining tours, and having support from some of the biggest artists in the world. I love seeing this happen. So I wanted to get him on the podcast. So without further ado, Enamour. What's cooking, man?
Not much. How's it going?
Dude, this is exciting to me because I've known you for years, and it's like been amazing to see where we first met. To kind of put a little bit of context behind it, when did we first meet? 5 years ago?
I should have thought about it and actually remembered. It was probably 5 or 6 years ago. I think with COVID, I can't do time anymore, but I don't think I even had my first, maybe just my first release.
No, you definitely hadn't
I didn't have anything.
You hadn't even started making music.
Yeah, so it was probably 2014 then.
2014, it was
maybe
2015. Yeah. And
that's wild.
I did a competition for people to go and have dinner with me before a show, and you won the competition, right?
Yeah.
I still had you saved in my phone as Michael Gold Burgers DC.
Never change it.
No, and it's I love situations like this where somebody that I've met over the time that is now full-time in music?
Yeah.
Yeah, now full-time in music. When you had a proper job beforehand, and now I remember the conversations when we were talking about the conversion between going from a full-time job to full-time music. Yeah. And it's just really nice to say. So before we get into this, I just want to say a huge congrats, man. It's so nice to see, and I'm super happy.
Thank you. Yeah, it's been a journey. And I feel like you were one of the first professional people that actually gave me the time of day and gave me advice and was actually trying to help and being a genuine person, whereas most people are just they kind of just brush you off. So thank you as well. You gave me some key advice back then.
Really? What advice did I give you? Fucking hell, this is probably awful.
I remember we were talking about agents and managers, and I think at that time, or when you're first starting out, you really think you need a team, and you're trying to just get all your bases in order, and you were just stop worrying about that. Just start writing more music. Finish the music. That's always the first thing. And then when I was choosing between different managers, I remember you gave me a lot of advice to help kind of figure out who's the right person. And I think I made the right choice.
How did you get to that conclusion?
You mean finding the right team?
Yeah.
So I think the biggest thing for me, at least, was waiting until people are reaching out to you, and not just reaching out, but asking to meet up when they're in your city or something, or truly showing some initiative, I guess.
Yeah.
Because then at that point, it's not so much about having negotiating leverage, because you still have no leverage because you're brand new, but it's just it proves that they're actually interested in repping you, and they have this passion about it. Whereas if you go to them and you're hey, I'm seeking management, they're just okay, well, I'll take 20% of your shit, but I don't even care about your project.
Yeah, totally. I look at it very much like a relationship where you don't, if you're in the mood for a relationship, you don't just go up to a girl and be can you be my girlfriend? Without knowing her name, or a guy without knowing anything about her or him. And I find it very much like that with the same with the management, is that somebody has to show a bit of interest to start with, and then the relationship can grow, and sometimes the relationship grows into something that's not what you want, or you both have. It's exactly the same as a relationship, and I think is apart from the tough side of it, which I don't know if you've experienced yet, but it's the breakup, if you have a breakup, but also the business side of it, because when there's relationships and business, like have you had any of that yet?
Yeah, definitely. I think I'm kind of in a unique situation, or maybe I'm naive and a lot of people have this, but the way that it worked out for me at least was my current manager had hit me up among a bunch of other people when I was kind of like catching a little bit.
Yeah.
And she happened to be from where I lived currently, like in DC.
Yeah.
So she was like, next time I'm there for the holidays, let's just like connect and chat. And we had a chat, like we had a lot in common. And then she was I don't think she had interest in managing me, or she was just trying to like build her network, maybe, I don't know, but she was working at an agency at that time, but then she joined a management company after she had met with me, like unrelated, and then they happened to be like, hey, do you know any new talent? So it like worked out very naturally, and then we started working together, and we found out that like some of our friends were connected to my girlfriend, and then over time now my girlfriend and I are as close as with her friends as she is with our friends, and it's it's almost like dangerous. Like if something ever did happen, it would be like potentially a massive breakup hole, whatever. But like we're so intertwined as friends now that I see her as a friend almost before a manager.
Yeah.
And I know a lot of people say that, like, you know, my manager is my best friend or whatever. But with us, it's like we are actually going to like parties and we'll see each other there, not even knowing we were both invited. So it's like, so it seems it's nice for me, but all of that, going back to your question, just kind of makes it harder for me to like crack the whip for like business things, because I'm like, well, this is also just like my friend.
It's tough,
you know.
It's really tough. But I honestly, for me, is like that time when you do. There's ways that I learned to crack the whip. In a non-whip cracking way.
Well, yeah, that's not even a good phrase to use.
No, I think it is though. I think it is, because I think at the end of the day, you're the boss.
Yeah.
And in every company, the boss has to like round the troops up at some point and go, come on, let's refocus. We have to. And maybe she has to do that for you. Who knows?
Definitely.
But like, I think it's like it goes two ways.
I think the biggest thing and the thing that I always have to remind myself that's actually gotten harder the more successful I've become is to remember that no one cares about your project as much as you do, and no 100%. One is gonna, like, when I'm thinking about like who's my perfect manager, like what would that person look like? It's someone who has no life, no friends, works on my project 24/7, which is just unrealistic. But that's how I work on my project. Like I'm answering emails or looking at emails at midnight because I have a problem. But I think when I was first starting out and didn't have a team, my drive and the effort might not have been that different, but like the way I was executing was different, where it's like every single thing that needed to get done, I had to do it. But now that I can toss stuff to other people, it doesn't get done as fast because they're like people, you know, they have lives and other clients, whatever.
Do you find
things, it's like you just have to find that balance, like stuff you just still have to do yourself, and remember that like no one is gonna like be as nitpicky as you are if you're like a control freak or whatever.
Never.
Which I am.
Yeah, no, I can relate to that massively. Often times Ryan, my manager, we'd be talking about something and I'm like, I've already done it, mate. And he's like, why are you always like 2 steps ahead of me? And I'm like, well, you're just slow. Just deal with it.
Like I used to do, I was into photography and graphic design before I ever started producing. So I have like a little bit of that background, and I'll like cut together quick videos or like edit my own photos and stuff. And she'll be like, we have a team for this. And I'm like, yeah, but I just wanted it today in like the next 10 minutes. So I just did it.
Yeah, I couldn't possibly wait an hour. I needed it now.
Yeah, exactly.
I wonder when that will change for you, when you'll be able to, because that's a you thing, right? That's not a team thing. That's a you thing.
I think it's a tiny bit. It's definitely a me thing, but it's a little bit of both. Only because the team, I'm still one of the smaller fish on my team.
Who is your team?
So
if you want to talk about it.
Yeah, I mean, Red Light manages me, and it's my manager Anna, who like started out kind of as the day to day with someone above her, who still like looks after, but he's on to like these other clients, so I'm mostly focused with her. But they also do Hayden James, who's like huge.
Right you guys are you under them? My manager's like really good friends with Hayden's manager. Is it Luke?
Yeah.
My Ryan's really good friends with him.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
So it's Luke and Anna, and that's one of many. I think with Red Light, a lot of the managers kind of like share a lot of people, or they're like working on different projects a lot. So it goes all over the place. But I look at where I'm at, I'm like, oh, I'm like doing pretty well, like whatever. And then it's these people who are like, they were here 10 years ago. Now they're like, so much higher. It's like, why would any resources be prioritized to me at this point? And I have to remind myself that. Yeah. So it's not anyone's fault. It's just kind of how the system works. But I do think I could not care so much about like the small stuff. Yeah. And that would also take some stress away.
I think, do you get stressed?
Yeah, it manifests in different ways. Like you would never like look at me and think I'm stressed. Like my girlfriend's like, why don't you ever get like, you never like show your emotions? And I'm like, well, they just manifest differently. Like I like get angry in my head, but I don't like walk around like storming or whatever. But it's the stress is always something that I can pat down by just like remembering where I'm at and like having gratitude for what is working. And it's like, if I'm mad that whatever, some show got canceled, or I'm on some bad time slot, or like whatever it is, or this person's not answering our email fast enough, I'm just like, 5 years ago, if I saw that I had been like supported by whatever DJ, it would have like blown my mind. And now that information just like walks right past my face, and I'm like, oh, cool, another whatever. So it's like you just get desensitized to the success, the little wins. Whereas when you remember where you were, those same little wins would have been like the happiest day of your life. So I try to rewind and be like, okay, I should be super happy right now.
Yeah, I think the thing is though, it's like it's the want for more and the drive to kind of be more successful. And something kind of clicked for me at some point in I think it was like end of 2018, beginning of 2019. And especially like this summer for me, it was like a huge thing. Obviously, like I've always known that a big record will change your career. Like we all know that, right? A hit record, everyone wants a hit record, right? But even more so for me, especially this year, was like, it's just the music is the only thing that can do the talking. This is like the only thing. If you have a big record, if you don't sweat the small stuff and just concentrate on the music, everything else will fall in place. And it kind of has for you to a certain extent, if you think about it. Like the small stuff doesn't really matter in the grand scheme of things. It just matters on a day-to-day basis, because if you were in the studio 24 hours a day, you wouldn't give a fuck about the small stuff.
Yeah, that's something I really realized in the past couple months, or like when COVID was ending. Yeah. Or the lockdowns, because during lockdown, I was like the happiest person. Like it was, kind of creepy, but like I was like, oh, you want me to stay at home all day with like no other choice? Excellent. Like, because I would say like the big, like I once I got like my yoga practice and like I got my like pair of free weights and like could still be healthy indoors, I was it was literally like music 15 hours a day. And I wrote like 200 songs. I was having like this creative renaissance that whole year. And then when I came out of it and shows started coming, we had to start sending stuff to labels and just all the regular, like whatever stresses of the job came. I started to keep a journal and wrote down like which days was I stressed, which days was I not thinking about it at the end of the day. And the days I was writing music was always the good days.
Yeah.
And the days I was like working on the other stuff were always the bad days. So I was thinking like, okay, clearly the stress is just from being distracted from why I'm doing this in the first place, which is just to write music all the time.
100%. And I understand what you're saying with like being a smaller artist on the roster, but the only way to become a bigger artist on the roster is write bigger records.
Yeah,
it's the only way.
It's not even like most of my stress comes from that. It's just, so I come from a corporate background. Like I worked at a big consulting company, like management consulting, like the suit, everything. And that's what I thought I was going to do for most of my life. Like when I was 6, I was like, I want to be a CEO of my own company. Like that was my thing.
That's amazing.
And which I am. Like I am an entrepreneur. It's just in music. Like we are the CEOs of our business. Totally. But that aside, I think that transition is still really tough because I'm sure you can relate. But like the music industry is filled to the brim with people who have no professionalism at all. Until you reach a certain level, but like it's mostly younger people. It's mostly people who might not have ever had another job. It's mostly people whose success is tied to someone else. So like you can be a shitty manager, but have someone writing hit records and still get lucky and then blow up. And then people think you're good at your job when, you might not be. So it's like trying to deal with those people. It's more about the principle of like, it took them 3 weeks to email me back one sentence. And like, that's the kind of stuff that gets me annoyed and stresses me out, where it's like, I just have this like bar of, workmanship that I want to be like working with. So I think it's kind of, it's rooted in like my experience working at a real job and like, getting yelled at when you don't do something to like a sufficient standard.
No, I totally agree with you. And I think for me is like, there comes a point where it's like, they will respond to me when they want me and when they need me. And realistically, if they're not responding straight away, they give zero fucks. Because I can guarantee you, if you email somebody and you're like the hottest new thing, they will email you straight away. And it's just something that I've realized is that it's like, you either want me when I'm on the way up, or you don't want me at all. And the people that want you on the way up, that will give you the support on the way up, you will make sure that you give them absolutely everything you can when you're at the top. And then the people that will give you, sounds like a very dick move, but when the people that don't want you on the way up, you just take what you can when you're at the top and just fucking rinse it for as much as you can. Because it's like, come on, we all started somewhere. Even the people that even those types of people were nobody at some point. And I think it's like, we're all human beings. We all shit out the same hole. Like, where's the level? There's like a level of respect, and I think there's a huge lack of that in this industry. And I'm not talking shit on it. It's just it is what it is. And of course, a lot of these people can't give all their time to everybody, and I don't expect all that time. But like you said, a simple email going, "No, I'm right, thanks," doesn't take 3 weeks.
That was kind of one of my, I have like a mental like 10 commandments in my head of like stuff that I remember when I was trying to break into it and like come up 5 or 7 whatever years ago. And I was like, okay, when I'm big, I'm never going to do this, or I'm always going to do that. And a bunch of them have to kind of do with this, where like anytime, even if like I get the dumbest remix requests of someone who like doesn't even have a release, and they're like, I'd love for you to remix my song. I'm just like, hey man, I don't have the bandwidth, thanks. Like I'll do it for my iPhone. like before dinner or something. Like I just immediately answer and they're like, cool, thanks for getting back to me.
Yeah.
And I tried to instill that same thing in my team. I'm like, hey, I want to be the kind of team that like we just say no rather than ignore people.
Yeah.
And if we get a second follow up, we've already failed and we like need to just say something to them. Like I want that reputation.
Yeah.
They're like, you're fucking crazy. We're not doing that. But I still try to get back to everyone as soon as possible. Cause for me, it's not like, oh, you're wasting their time. Like they might be waiting to email the next person until you get back. So you've just delayed whatever their thing is for 3 weeks. It's like, it's not even disrespectful. It's like fucking up someone's schedule, someone's career in like a very short term.
No,
I had tracks that were supposed to come out in like March, and then like over delays of chains of emails, the track comes out in like October, and I'm like, I had a whole tour planned around this release, and now it's like totally fucked.
Yeah. No, I agree. It's a very weird industry, and for the amount of money that gets made in the industry, it's very unprofessional in a corporate sense, but it works, and that is the joys of a creative world. It's doesn't necessarily, until you get to the top, it doesn't really have the professionalism to a certain extent. Which,
and it makes sense because there's so much volume and it's so busy that like you can't expect it.
Yeah, and realistically, there's not much money in it until you're at the top, right?
No.
Like even for like, there's barely any money in it really, because everyone takes cuts, and what gets left in the pot as the artist. It doesn't necessarily mean like you couldn't employ you in your corporate life to work for you right now, if that makes sense.
No. Yeah.
So it's like when you can only employ a certain level of employee because everyone has a value. It's like, oh, okay, let's get another intern in and pay them like $1,000 a month. And it's like, well, I'm going to get $1,000 a month worth of person. And it sounds really disrespectful saying that, but it's the fact of
no, it
how
is.
it is.
It's also how it's how I like remember that what's going on is totally normal. Cause I'm like, oh, whatever. Like they didn't get this on time, or like they're acting like this. And I'm like, what's their salary based off of the percentage they're getting from me or from their client? It's like below minimum wage. Like that's the reason you need multiple clients to begin with. And like, you can't expect the quality of work knowing that you're not making them that much money.
Yeah, and I bring it very insular and very on myself, where it's like, okay,
for sure,
what do I need to do to make sure that I have this person's full attention? And it all comes down to making good music.
Except in the last year or so, some people would be like, nah, you just need a 10 million on TikTok and you can just become a DJ.
Okay, so I had Shaq on the podcast just to like, I've done 4 podcasts.
DJ
today.
Diesel was one of the most entertaining shows I've ever seen.
No, not that Shaq.
Different Shaq?
Different Shaq. So it's SCHAK. He's like got the hottest, it's like the hottest record in the UK at the moment. It's like blowing up. It's on Patrick Topping's label with the tracks.
Okay.
I forgot what the track's called.
Not my world.
Yeah, very far away from your world. But he's a character, and he's done some social media stuff. Very, very interesting, very cool, lovely guy. But like, it's so authentically him, like the whole TikTok thing, the whole different persona thing. It's very him, and you can tell it's so authentic. If you went and did that and I saw you going to do that, I'd be like, mate, what the fuck are you doing? Because it just looks stupid. Because it doesn't feel authentic. If I did that, it wouldn't feel authentic to me. So I totally agree. Like, yes, nowadays the whole TikTok thing is a bit weird. But you have to do what's authentic to you.
Yeah.
And
that's my problem with it is the managers or like the teams or the advice people who are like, everyone should be doing this. It's like, no.
Yeah.
Just because someone had success with it doesn't mean that it's the next thing that will make everyone else successful. Yeah.
Yeah, I totally agree. My thing is like, just fucking make great music. Like the great music will pay off eventually. Like music comes through, and yes, you have to promote your music. You have to promote your music. Like there's no way around it. You can't not promote your music. Like without promotion, nothing happens. Like
especially nowadays.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
So it's like, but even previously, promotion was just different, right? So like even before I was like full time in music, like promotion was more based on like DJs playing your records. Where now, like if a DJ plays your record, it means fucking nothing. It means really, unless every DJ is playing your record, it means nothing. So it's like, how do you promote a record to the masses? It's tough.
Yeah.
It's
become, I think the shift, at least what I'm noticing, and I like try to keep up with it because it does interest me. And I studied like marketing in college. So I've always had that background, but it seems more about promoting yourself as the product these days than specific songs. Because even like someone like, John Summit, who's like clearly had hits, like legitimate hits that everyone was playing. All of my, like the younger people I know, and like my cousin who's like 24 or whatever, she's like, I'm going to go see John Summit. I'm so pumped. And I'm like, what's your favorite song by him? She's like, I don't know. I just follow his Twitter.
Yeah.
And it's like, I think that's fucking awesome. Cause like, if you can sell yourself as a product and have great music, but the funnel is open both ways, you're going to be a superstar.
Yeah. You are the product.
You are the
product, and your music isn't the product.
But I think that's kind of shifted because it sort of used to be the other way around, where like even guys like Dixon or whatever, who like, it's not about their stage presence and it's not about who they are. It's about their curation of music.
Yeah.
Even now that's kind of transformed where he's like this icon.
Yeah.
Even though he's not like doing anything different really.
Yeah. I think it just depends also on like who your market audience is, right? So like,
for sure. Totally.
Let's say for instance, like, with John, classic example is like, if you're a frat boy or a frat girl, a sorority girl, whatever it is in America, like they're your target audience for him, right?
Yeah.
Like, like if you're getting fucked up on social media all the time, your whole thing's about a party, like your whole thing's about girls and all of that. Like you're directing to a certain audience. Tale of Us, on a different hand, way more successful worldwide, marketing to a very different audience, marketing to a wealthy audience, marketing to people that will go and buy a lot of bottles in clubs and sell a lot of tickets for a lot of money. Very different, and they both work very well. Like, I don't see Tale of Us doing stupid TikTok shit.
Yeah.
They just have found what's authentically them and doing what works for them. And realistically, like, social media has helped them massively because of their visuals, right? Totally. A lot of people know Afterlife more than Tale of Us.
For sure. They haven't released a song in like 3 years.
Exactly.
I mean, Mateo has, but like...
but like...
different.
They don't need to. So like, if they don't need to, then... And they're not that interested in it, then why? If you know what I mean. They're doing perfectly fine in the music industry without releasing music. That's fucking crazy to say.
It's crazy, yeah.
But it is what it is, right? It's like, it's the way this industry is built is not based around, the music industry is not always based around music. However, it starts with music. It's always starts with, like John started with music. Got the bark?
Yeah, and I think he's sleeping too, so he might just be having a nightmare. Yeah, it always starts with music, and it's always centered around it. But I do think that it's a shift. Like, I feel like it used to be more about music, or maybe I'm becoming like jaded, but I don't know. I feel like, because even with like Eric Prydz and like Big Room and stuff, like the production was always crazy, and it's even crazier now. But there used to be like hits and anthems and that kind of thing. And I feel like there hasn't really been a song that like lasts for more than a couple months before something else. Like, it's
Do you think
It doesn't
that's?
feel like the age of like songs anymore.
I agree with you. I really don't disagree with you on that. I think. What do you think that is?
The volume of stuff coming out probably,
Mm-hmm.
and just the attention span due to social media has just shrunk immensely. And I think the fact that there's so many, I don't know if like, amateur is the right word, but because like everyone is a DJ now, and like, and depending on who you're seeing, like half the crowd might have DJ'd before or like
Yeah.
owned a controller, which is wild. But because of that, I think that like songs get played out even for the fans by the fans faster.
Yeah.
Where like you go to your friend's house and they're playing all the hottest new records.
Yeah.
6 weeks of that, and you're like, okay, this is fucking boring now.
Yeah.
Whereas it used to be a record could last a year because you could only hear it at the club because not everyone was playing it.
Yeah.
That's a theory. I don't know.
I think everything just moves faster, doesn't it? Fashion,
just generally.
Fashion, everything. It moves really fast. I don't necessarily like it, but there's also like what can we do about it? We just got to fucking move on and just keep writing music, and just it will come back around. It always does.
I just think like Spotify, that Daniel Ek was famous for being like, you got to just release more now. Like it's just every couple weeks, Have
you seen that documentary?
Yeah, I just finished it the other day.
It's fucking weird, isn't it?
It's a little weird.
It kind of cringed me out a lot watching it.
Yeah, it was like over dramatic for certain parts. It was cool. Like I had read a book about it, so I already knew a lot of the history, and like some of it was clearly just over dramatic for the show. But yeah, I don't like any time. I feel like I'm often, if I like listen back to what I say, I'm like, oh, stop complaining. And like none of this is really complaining. It's more just like I think about. I'm just a thinker, and I'm observant, and it's interesting to like see how these things change and how it progresses, and like, I don't know, can you take advantage of how the market works to potentially, beat it or be more successful in it? And I feel like if you're completely ignorant of what's changing around you, that's how you fall out a little bit.
100%. I don't. Yeah, I agree with you 100%, and I think it's really important to talk about it, because I think the more you talk about it, the more it becomes real, and the more you can kind of hash out ideas to move forward and kind of move into it.
Yeah.
I think it's really important to talk about it. And also there's so many people that don't understand what goes into it. Like I remember for me, when I first started playing, Beatport wasn't around to start with. So, and it was vinyl only. And then it started when like CDJs were just slowly coming in, and then Beatport came in, and everything was about, can I even get my music on Beatport? Like Beatport had a filtering system. They made it hard for you to get on Beatport.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, it was like they wouldn't, if you weren't cool, you weren't getting on Beatport.
Wow.
At the beginning. And when you got a Beatport number one, it changed your career. Like you were literally like went from nothing to everything overnight if your record went on Beatport number one. If you get Beatport number one now, it really doesn't fucking mean anything.
Yeah. Certain genres, it's like that could only mean like 100 sales.
Yeah. Which Beatport has always been that way inclined to a certain extent, where like, because it's just DJs going there. But what used to happen, Beatport people weren't DJs would go there because that was the only place they could get the music. Yeah. Now what's happened is everything's just like massively diluted, because there's so many platforms of like, put it on here. And like, I get so many people going like, why didn't you put your music on SoundCloud? I'm like, well, just there's so many other places to go listen to it. Like, and also like SoundCloud pays shit. So why would I put it on SoundCloud? And now it's like SoundCloud's got a resurgence. So it's like everyone's putting their music back on SoundCloud. And it's like, there comes a point when you're like, oh, I just want to fucking make music.
Yeah, dude.
But
it's crazy like thinking about I try to remember that like everyone's like journey to the music is drastically different.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I'm even in like a very small subset that
Yeah.
that I can't relate to a lot of people, but like YouTube is the second biggest music platform.
Yeah.
And like some people have built their career off of having their music on YouTube, and it's like a lot of things that like people don't even think about.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think if fans knew more about the inner workings of the industry, it would like I don't know. I feel like a lot could change. I'm not sure if there's like an analogy in some other industry, but
Do you think it would though?
I don't know. Maybe not significantly, but like it would just be maybe it would just make our lives easier when our fans don't like assume something that like is kind of offensive or like they understand like the economics. Like when people were talking about Spotify doesn't pay enough, and they touch on this at the end of the show, but it has nothing to do with Spotify not paying enough. It's people who have deals with the record label where they get a 17% royalty. So when they see streams coming in, they're like, oh, I only get this much. It's like, well, you're also only getting 17% of what Spotify's paying out.
Yeah.
And yeah, Spotify could pay more, but it starts with the labels. And sometimes that also is like, it starts with the distributors above them. I don't know. That's just one example, but there's a lot of stuff. And I think like how fans find your music, if they understood which ones were more lucrative or which ones provided like a more tailored experience.
Yeah.
Like Spotify's top 10 songs, I don't think any artist is happy about their top 10.
I don't know. I don't hate my top 10.
5.
I don't hate them. For me.
Maybe you are, but like most people, it's like, oh, well, those are like the poppiest ones or the only ones that got playlisted, but it's like not the collection that you're like trying to put to the forefront.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I think if a lot of that kind of stuff was more known, it could just help you tell a better story to your fans, or like have the parts that you want to monetize be more monetized. I don't know.
But I guess the question is like, for me, every record that I think is going to do well doesn't do well, and every record that I don't think is going to do well does well. Just how it is.
Really?
Yeah, to a certain extent. I knew
sometimes it's like that with me.
I knew Hallelujah was going to do well just because everyone was playing it before it came out. But like everything else in my career, like I didn't know was going to do well if it did well.
No one does.
No,
even
and
if
I
a
think
label's like, this is the one, they're usually wrong.
Always wrong. Always. If they're saying this is the one, I'd back the fuck out because it's not the one.
Yeah.
So I think in counter to your argument, it's like as artists, we are pretty bougie when it comes to how we want to be perceived into the public, right? But at the end of the day, the public will perceive us however they perceive us. And we can never change that. Never change that. However, what we can do is just put out music, and if they like it, they can just do what the fuck they want with it then. And it doesn't have to be too thought out. And I think we as artists can like overthink everything way too much and be like, oh, this should be here, this should be that. And it doesn't really fucking matter.
Yeah. Well, it's out of your control. Like
exactly.
I believe, and I learned this kind of the hard way, but I believe that an artist's culture or like an artist's image is defined by who their perceived fans are.
Yeah.
So it's like if people think that the fans of this artist, like what we were just saying about Tale of Us or John Summit, their culture is defined by who we think their fans are. We're not like, I think you were right in what you said, but a lot of the times you're like, oh, that person is whatever lame, or
totally.
He plays hard, or all this stuff
Yeah.
based off of who you think their fans are, not even what the actual reality is. So it's like no matter what you try to brand yourself as or whatever careful little tinkering you do, it's about who becomes the fans of your music, or not even that, but like who other people think are the fans of your music.
Yeah, and I think the thing is thinking about that is if you keep it very personal to you, right? And it's like, what type of music do you listen to? And you go onto your Spotify playlist or your personal Spotify playlist and see how much the genres change in there. And then what we're trying to do is like finger point everybody to be this specific person and
Yeah.
completely forget that like I listen to country music and fucking Macioplex. Like, who
Yeah.
would have thought it? Like, I'd go to a festival and if Macioplex was playing and Coulter Wall was playing, I'd go see both of them.
That's
And
incredible.
I know, right? It's fucking stupid. But then I think like, okay, like, you know what? Maybe my fans, maybe I don't know who my fans are in that sense. Is like, we don't know them that well. They just come to our shows and we know a handful of them. Like, we can't possibly know all of them. But realistically, as long as us as the artists are putting out the music that we love, hopefully they will like it.
Yeah. I've gotten a lot of good advice that's similar to that, where it's like, you do what you want to do and the fans will come. Because I think, at least for my project, relative to most, what I'm putting out is like, at least within the subgenre, it's like very eclectic.
Yeah.
Like the fact that like Lee Burge has played some songs, Above and Beyond has played some songs, like Two Different Worlds. But for me, I was always like, I'm going to do what I want to do. I like all these genres. I want to produce all these genres.
Yeah.
And Alias, you know, maybe it was a bad idea to not do it. Maybe it was a good idea. But over time, I've built a fan base, at least I think I have, that also likes both of those things.
Yeah.
And it's become like, if you come to my shows, it's because you want to hear whatever 5 different subgenres of house and techno in one show, because you like all of it and you're a fan of all of it. And, you know, if I can weave it together, that's a hats off to me for being able to do that as a DJ. But like, if I was to only go down one of those rabbit holes, then I think I would be less happy with who my fans would become, because it would be like boxing me in a way. But it took a little bit to like get that fan base that's actually down for like those switch ups in between a set or whatever.
And I think as long as it doesn't matter how long it takes.
Yeah.
It's just like, for me, it was like a huge switch from going, okay, so my fans were majority like Dirty Bird fans. And like, I knew like the type of fan that would come to my shows. And when I was like, okay, I'm stepping away from Dirty Bird and kind of moving forward with where I want to go with things, like, my fans are going to change. Some of them are going to come with me, but I'm really going to have to build them back up and start again, start afresh. And we're still in that building stage now. And we're still like, occasionally I get people like, actually, I can probably say this year is the first year where people haven't asked me to play my Dirty Bird music.
Nice.
Which is like, it's taken the whole of COVID and a year, the whole of 2019 up until now for that to happen. And that we purposely put that plan in place with my team, and it eventually gets there. But no one ever turns around as quickly as you do as the artist. You have to give it time.
Yeah.
And that's the fun of it for me. It's like, how do we, okay, like, I'm going to support a show for this person. How do I make sure that I'm going into the show, no one has a fucking clue who I am? How do I make sure that all of these people know who I am, or even 10% know who I am? Yeah. And like, I played in Granada in Spain on Saturday. I could guarantee there was probably one person in that club that knew who I was to start with. By the end of it, I want to make sure that I open my Instagram and see a fuck ton of DMs and seeing like people going, you just gave me the best night I've ever had in this club. And that's purely the one thing is that just keeps me going, is how can I,
definitely,
if I'm supporting a headliner, how can I make sure I have a better set than the headliner? And that's not me being a dick. That's me going, I need to win these over, because I know eventually I'm going to be selling tickets to these people.
Yeah, 100%. I actually like had a bit of like a day of reckoning when I switched over from like only doing support to starting to headline my own tours.
Yeah.
Where I like sat down in front of Record Box and was like, okay, what does like an Enamour set look like when there is no other constraint?
Yeah.
and trying to like piece that together was tough at first because I was so used to being this artist who could chameleon before some other DJ and do like such a cool opening set that's like my spin on what the fans of this person would like.
Yeah.
And it like really helped me blow up initially for the people that I was supporting. But yeah, it's the challenge like shifts when you're just playing to fans that already know who you are versus when you're trying to win them over. Personally, I think the winning them over part is more fun as well.
Way more
like
fun.
A headlining show is obviously fun, but it's almost like built in a little bit. You don't feel as much of like a challenge. And knowing I kind of hate playing my big records. I don't hate it, but they're just the biggest ones for me are not always the clubbiest, so it just doesn't translate. So knowing that I can always play one of those like more commercially records and like have the whole crowd isn't interesting to me.
Yeah.
So when I'm opening or playing a multi-artist like lineup where people are just going for the party, that's like my favorite thing to do because it's like I have no restraints. I can play as little of myself as I want or all my unreleased stuff. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, it's really interesting, isn't it? Because I agree with that. But I also, for me going into headline shows, I still go in going, most of these people don't know who I am. Because I think in a lot of the situations that we're playing in is like, they're like, it's not hard tickets.
Mm-hmm. That's true.
So it's like, it's clubs. And then also it's like, okay, there's two people that want to go to, let's just say, I don't know, I'm trying to think of Sound in LA, right? Let's just say Sound because it's more of a soft ticket venue than a hard ticket venue. So you get the people that are just going to Sound because they go to Sound on a Saturday night, first of all.
Yeah.
You then get the people that just want a night out, so they buy tickets. They don't know who's headlining, so just buy tickets and go if it's affordable. Then you have your fans that buy your tickets, but then you have your fans' friends that probably don't really give a fuck who's DJing, but every person that's bought a ticket is bringing somebody with them or might be bringing somebody with them, and the likelihood of them knowing who you are is like pretty slim. So in these soft ticket shows, I'd probably say only like 20-30% of them actually like true fans. Some of them might know who you are, but they're not actual true fans. They don't follow you on Instagram. I see this, and I don't know if you see this, but I see this as like, I'll play a show in LA. It's like one of my biggest markets. And after the show, I'll get like 200-300 followers. And you're like, guys, you bought tickets to my show. Like, why aren't you following me? But then, and then you like backtrack and your ego kind of gets taken out of it. And you're like, actually, no, like, why would you follow me? Like, you've seen me once. So like, or you may have seen me twice now. And now you're fully in, or maybe it's like 4 times. And like, you've seen me 4 times this year. And now you've just got around to following me. Like, I think that's the thing is like, I think I used to like expect so much from people as fans. Yeah. And when I kind of like took my ego out of it and was like, all I can do is expect nothing.
Yeah. I'm constantly reminding myself and like chuckling every time I do that I have to remember that like I am not the average of the audience at all.
Yeah.
And like I actually do this a lot with you where when I'm thinking about like how should I do something, I'm like, well, what would Will do? Because like I remember when you would do those burger contests, I was like, that's such a cool way to like meet fans, make them super fans immediately, have them come to the rest of your shows for the rest of your life, and also just like learn more about who your fans are. Yeah. But I'm always trying to think like, what would I do in this situation as a fan? And it's literally never been what I'm expecting my fans to do. And it's like complete nonsense that I would expect them to do something that I don't even do. But like that, for example, I'll catch myself not following an artist that I've been DJing since 2015. I'm like, wow, why don't I follow them? Or I'll love a song by this guy and play his song every single set for the whole summer and never once look to listen to any of their other music.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, some fan will be like, "Oh, I love your biggest song, blah blah blah," and I in my head I'm like, oh, I wish you would go to my discography and listen to the rest of it. And then I backtrack. I'm like, wait, I don't even do this for other artists, and I'm a fucking
Exactly.
DJ.
Yeah.
So it's like you constantly have to just, and like when I go to shows, like, you know, I bring friends and I tell them like all about the artist, and then I realize I'm not even following that person on Instagram, and then how do I expect others?
Yeah,
It's just,
and also
you
like
can't ever expect it.
no, and I think that's the thing is going in with zero expectations. It's like for me, like releasing music changed as well. Like my last couple of releases have done really fucking bad streaming, like really bad streaming, like laughable bad.
I'm sorry.
It's fine. I laugh about it, but it's like it's yeah, it's just fucking house music.
Yeah.
And it's like I can stress about it, but I just write another record and put another record out. And then if that does bad, I'll just write another record and put another record out. And eventually someone's going to be like, go on then, give them a chance and it will do well. So it's like, I don't know, there's bigger things to worry about, which sucks to bring that back down. Because when we're in our own little worlds, right, it's so hard to just accept that a record that you love so much of your own record is just no one's hearing it, and the Spotify gods haven't given you the playlist that you think you deserve, and the Spotify algorithm hasn't given you the algorithm that you deserve, and the radio DJs put on some other artist's record that you think's a shit record, if you know what I mean. And there's all these other factors, and it's just fucking house music.
Yeah. I think it's kind of analogous to life as a whole, where your mindset determines your reaction to all of these things. So like you could say, oh, the record's not doing well because it sucks and I'm a bad producer. Or you could say because it's totally out of my control and it has to do with whether literally a single person playlists it. Or a single person puts it on the radio, and like that person might not have checked their email. They might not have even listened to the song. There's so many ways you can like talk yourself out of it not being your own problem, that it actually almost is like a positive, where because it's so nebulous and out of our control, it doesn't discourage people, or it shouldn't. It doesn't need to discourage you as much as it could, as if you literally handed the demo to your favorite DJ, they listened to it in front of you and were like, nah, this sucks.
Yeah. But also, like, how many times have you heard a record and you listen to it in the studio and you're like, yeah, this is pretty shit. And then you go hear someone else play it and you Shazam it and you're like, fuck, I listened to that today and it was shit. Why does it sound so good in the club? And it's our mindsets as well. It's like, we can't expect everybody else to be on if we're not on, or if we're in a different mindset. Like listening to a record when you're in a bad mood, or you got something on your mind, or you've had a argument with your girlfriend, or the dog shit on the fucking carpet, and then you listen to it on a different day when you're like in the best mood possible, like it changes the record.
Totally. I started like actively picking when I listened to promos because I started noticing that. Like right after a cup of coffee, I was like downloading everything, and then I would listen back. I'd be like, this is all shit. Or like I like mentor a lot of people through Patreon, and I would be giving people feedback, and my feedback would be like a lot harsher depending on what time of day I'd be listening to the track.
That's interesting. That's just because
trying to be conscious.
All you coffee addicts, you're all just a bunch of fucking drug addicts and aren't willing to accept it.
Oh, I will fully admit I am addicted to it. I try to wean myself off like every couple months, not so much to like prove that I'm not addicted, but because when you go back, it's like a fresh start and it feels good again. I mean, as far as like drugs go, I think we've even talked about this. Like, the only reason caffeine is legal is for like, has nothing to do with safety or like, you know, it's all like government BS or like history or like something, you know.
Same with alcohol,
it
right?
has to do with racism. Yeah. It's just.
Yeah.
everyone who's drinking coffee might as well also be taking speed instead. Like they're both pretty unhealthy for you.
It's pretty much exactly the same, but we just,
yeah,
it's fucking
or
crazy.
like people who take Adderall and party, and then they'll like see someone who's doing speed or like meth, and they're like, "Whoa!" And I'm like, "That's this pretty much the same."
Yeah, America loves that shit, don't they?
Yeah, I'm not into it.
It's wild. It's amazing what we do, or what some of us do, to like enhance the situation.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's amazing that there are DJs like you who have never really done any of those drugs and like still make music that's like tailored for it.
strictly class A's. Yeah, I don't know though, because I guess you don't have to. Yeah, it's weird, isn't it?
You've also been doing it for so long. I think that's probably has a big part of it.
Yeah, I think also growing up with what the music that I listened to, it was like, it's still drug music. Like Faithless was like the first band that I kind of got into. And it's like, well, that's practically trance to a certain extent, or like 90s rave, like commercial dance music. So I think like that nostalgic kind of feeling, you don't need to take drugs to get that feeling. You just get a feeling from it that I just presume the drugs just enhance it.
Yeah, I think at least from my understanding, when I just like talking to people and seeing it, obviously, is it's more about like removing inhibitions than it's both. It's like removing inhibitions and enhancing it. So it's like you could enjoy it in your head, but are you gonna like dance like a crazy person?
Totally.
Probably not.
100%. I don't enjoy going to clubs unless I'm DJing. I never really have. I've never had that.
It's a tough place to be if you're sober.
Yeah. I like it's weird. I love going, as you know, I love going for dinner. I love sitting down and having conversations in like a small group and like being very like insular and like having a deep conversation. The minute loud music gets involved, I just go into I just shut off, because I'm like, I want to have the conversation. I want to have the like, the like intimacy with somebody, with a conversation.
I'm the same way.
Yeah.
I'll go to shows because if certain DJs, if they're in my town, I like want to see them play, and it's great. Now that I'm in LA, and even towards the end of my time in DC, it was also just to like network a little bit and just like see the people in the scene and just say hi to everyone and my friends. But you will not find me dancing at a show unless it's like in Berlin and it's something that I do not make, like fast techno that like allows me to step out of myself.
Yeah.
But I'm constantly like analyzing stuff. Like my friends will like take a video of me like very like concentrating on what's happening in the club, and they're like, "You look like an idiot," and I'm I'm just
psycho.
Yeah, I'm like analyzing what's happening. Like this is my job. It's like you going to whatever you do, like a work conference or something.
Totally, man. I'm the same as well. It's like I'm trying to work out how that record is made, or I'm trying to work out,
or why it's working. I'll before my shows, I'll like bop around the dance floor while the opener's playing and just like see what's making people move, see like which parts of the crowd are like just people talking, who's dancing, like, and then when I go on, I kind of have those reference points to help me make better decisions. Also from a sound perspective, like that's another thing I wish fans knew is like most sound, at least in America, most clubs have shit sound.
Yeah.
And depending on where you are in the club could make or break whether you think the sound is good. Like if you're in a dead spot for the sub, the whole night you're going to be like, it's too quiet, turn it up, it's too quiet. And it's like you move 10 feet to the right and it's like the loudest bass you've ever heard.
Yeah. I also think, do we put too much pressure on the fans of what we expect of them in that sense? Do these people actually give a fuck about good sound?
Definitely not.
No.
This is all me, like, it's like, these are the things that I think about. But at the same time, like, they don't it's like you kind of don't know what you're missing, but your experience, I could
100%.
guarantee would be better
100%.
if you like thought about it.
Yeah.
Like when
100%.
I'm at a party with my friends, I'll move them to a better spot.
Yeah.
I won't always tell them that's the reason. I'm like, hey, let's just go over here.
Yeah. No, I totally agree with that. A good sound, game changer. Absolute game changer.
A lot of people don't know what good sound is. Like, if you haven't been to certain clubs in America, you have not heard a truly like fantastic sound system. Like there are cities that don't have one, you know?
Yeah.
And if that's your world, then, you know, you wouldn't know the difference.
Then it sucks to be you.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's how was the first tour for you? Or how was touring for you for the first, like, when was the first full time for you where you were like, this is...
So I quit my job August 2019, and then that was like either halfway through or like right before I think my second tour supporting Lane 8. But then throughout that tour, as well as right after, I was doing headline shows.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was really eye-opening, so much fun. But yeah, it kind of got me introduced to the lifestyle of like what I was gonna have to like come to expect going forward.
Yeah.
And I feel like I actually got a nice like stepping stone up to it.
Yeah.
I guess because Lane 8, he's not like this crazy like party animal who's DJing till 4 a.m. Like a lot of his shows are earlier in the night. It's hard ticket venues.
Yeah.
I kind of got to see that world and then also see the soft ticket nightclub world for headlining stuff at the same time and basically get a lay of the land.
What do you prefer?
Soft ticket for sure.
Really?
No doubt at all.
Yeah.
I even told my agent when we first started working with him a year or two ago, like, I'm not into hard ticket venues. Like, if there's a rock band at this venue, I do not want to play it.
Yeah.
And he's like, well, you don't understand. Like, most cities, you have to do that because, like, that's the capacity for your set, like, whatever.
Yeah.
And that's, like, the path you take to get to this venue and that venue. And we were, like, going back and forth. And I was like, well, I'd rather do, like, a pop-up at a warehouse or something than play at, you know, this hard ticket club. But to me, the sound is just not built for dance music at a lot of those hard ticket venues.
Yeah, unless you bring in your own sound.
Yeah, which is just it becomes super expensive. Yeah. But I think you want to be able to sell tickets. Like if I could sell out a soft ticket club like Sound or something, that's like the ultimate, you know, compromise. But there's pros and cons to both. Soft ticket venues like usually don't have a green room. The hospitality is like whatever. Whereas hard ticket, they treat you like you're a god because that's their job.
Well, also they're dealing with bands. They're dealing with
they have like showers in the green room.
This is gonna piss people off, but they're dealing with like proper artists that like they're just not a bunch of reprobates doing line. Well, I guess they are doing lines in the bathroom, but still, like it's a very different world. The whole DJ and like live band thing. I played
it also it goes to like what you want to play too. Like Lane 8, his sets are a lot of his own music, and it's almost he's become more of like an act than a DJ. Like people know him as a show, and especially with the This Never Happened concept, that's like what it's become. Same with Afterlife. It's like you're going to see a show, not really a concert. Like the visuals are so much a part of it now.
Yeah.
So for me, it's like if my bread and butter is going to a club, playing whatever the hell I want.
Yeah.
So much unreleased of my own music, like not all the hits, whatever. That doesn't lend itself well to a hard ticket type of lifestyle.
Yeah, it's a different. It's like a festival set and a club set, two completely different sets. But for me, like I want to go into that live room hard ticket. That's where I want to take things personally because
interesting.
Yeah, I love playing in clubs. But I think I'd love to curate something bigger that you can't do in a club.
Yeah, I guess. So I'm writing an album, and the idea with the album is to have a potentially a band even, but
amazing.
like kind of what like Gorgon does with like a real drummer, but like synths and stuff.
Yeah.
But I'm trying to build it with that in mind. So that might like scratch the hard ticket itch while still letting me do the DJing thing.
Well, I think the thing is you can always DJ. There's always going to be like a 350 cap, 600 cap venue that will want to book you, right? There's always going to be that if you keep writing good music. I think what happens is when you do the live thing, it's because you're a bigger audience and you can sell bigger tickets. You don't necessarily make more money. It just depends.
Potentially less.
Yeah. But it then it gives you a greater audience, right? Which is worth more to you in the long run.
Strategically, it seems like hard ticket is always the step that you want to make.
Yeah.
I think, it just has to be something that it's like, for me, I would want to be doing something different with the project, not playing a DJ set in a hard ticket.
I agree with that. With that.
That's what I'm really getting at, I guess.
Yeah. There's ways for it to be presented rather than just I think it just looks fucking boring, if I'm honest, as well. Just a dude or a chick just behind decks on a fucking massive stage. Like, come on.
Yeah, I hate that.
Yeah, it's just not for me at all.
And they'll like low cut at like 60 hertz, and they're like, that's as low as our drums kick goes. It's like, I'm not using your drum set.
Yeah, I played Mission Ballroom with Duke Dumont not so long ago. And that was an amazing venue. Absolutely amazing. And it sounded
I've heard good things.
It sounded really good for Duke. They kept it very quiet for the support acts, which I struggle with a lot, because it's like
that's also something I think characteristic of hard ticket and not soft ticket. It's like not about the party, it's about the
main
headliner.
act.
Yeah.
But I also think that's down to the whole team. Like, realistically, when it's the hard ticket venue, you as the headliner decides what happens in the venue. And I'm not saying Duke does this. This is Duke wouldn't do that, but you own the venue for that night. It's your venue, so it's like you can do what the fuck you want in it, really. If you want to put light on the support acts, give them. You're not going to give them full production, of course you're not, because it's that no one wants to see that until the headliner comes on. But there comes a point where it's like, well, give a little bit, a little bit more. But
make it feel like it's still a party before you come on.
That's the difference. Like, that's what I get. What you're saying there with electronic music, and like I remember going to see Chemical Brothers in Brooklyn, actually. And they're like my favorite, one of them and Faithless, and they had Charlotte DeVitt warming up, and it just wasn't like, she just didn't need to be there. And I don't mean that there was no disrespect to her or the Chems. She just didn't need to be there. Like, it would have been fine not to have her on. It was just like, because it was loud, it sounded good, but it's like you're going. It was an open stadium on like tennis courts, or the tennis courts where the like the US Open is on, and walking into like 135 BPM techno, it's like it's not it. But I get why she's on. She was like the hot new thing coming up then, and she was like still growing, so it was like they put her in front of it, which is great. It just curating the night just didn't work like that.
That's like a big thing I think that I've learned is a lot of times the lineups are based around how can we actually sell the most tickets.
100%.
Obviously, not about like what is going to make the best progression of the night. Like you might have someone in a totally different genre just because they're really big in that market, and you need to sell the rest of the tickets.
Yeah, I find festivals a lot like that at the moment.
Yeah,
where you're like, this person's playing this time. It's like, okay, makes no sense to me, but like, okay, it is.
That's like for like a fan experience. That's why I think like those small soft ticket clubs. That's when you hear DJs in their best light, I think.
Well, they're DJs. Like, that's it, isn't it? It's like you are
yeah.
literally like, you're made to do that. I think the difference with festivals is like the way festivals started was all bands.
Yeah.
And like there's no real progression with bands because they have songs.
Yeah.
And whereas when a DJ is playing, it's like, yes, a lot of these artists have songs of their own. Like I play 90% of my own records when I play, but it's like it's not fucking Red Hot Chili Peppers or Green Day or something like that.
Yeah.
There's
no like banter at the beginning of each song.
Yeah, exactly. And there's no like gaps. Yeah, totally. And yeah, it's very strange, but also I think we probably overanalyze it way more.
100%. I do all these kind of chats with my friends, and like 10 minutes in, their eyes just glaze over, and they're like, "Why do you think about these things?" It's honestly like I call it the musician's curse, but I recently realized or learned that every professional artist has this.
Yeah.
Where like I met a video game sound designer, and he was like, "I can't play video games anymore," and that was like my most favorite thing in the world. And I feel like it's after a certain level, you can't help but analyze everything about what you're doing.
Yeah.
Because it's your job, and it's you're so close to it.
Yeah, 100%.
It's hard to like step away and just be like, this is just people dancing to music. Like,
that's all it is. It's just house music.
That's all it is.
With all the politics, with everything going on in dance music, in music, it's like it's just music.
Yeah.
If it makes one person feel good, we've done our job.
Yeah. That's why it's nice to like actually have connections with fans. Like social media, for all of its faults, has opened this window. Well, I guess there was fan mail, but like that, who knows what that was like. But seeing DMs where it's like, you helped me through this with this song, like that's what it's about at the end of the day. So it is nice that we have that ability to hear from our fans directly, and I can get reminded of why we're doing it.
Yeah, I can guarantee if we didn't have social media, 90% of us wouldn't be successful.
Yeah, probably.
Because it's like the market was way smaller.
Yeah.
And especially in America, like it was all rock and hip hop before EDM. And EDM came around. Social media was around before EDM.
Barely.
But yeah, just about. And that's when it all started happening. So I think social media, although there's lots of cons to it, there's way more pros. Way more. Just technology generally. Like how many people can make music now that couldn't make music a year ago, 2 years ago?
Yeah, it's crazy.
It's fucking
we're teetering on the edge of being able to just like press a button and have a song written for you.
AI.
Not that that's a good thing, but like it's become easier. It's more about like who has interesting ideas more than who is capable and wealthy enough to like afford gear, which is what it kind of used to be, or just access overall.
I had DJ Bone on the podcast, and he said what he's noticed is technically people are very good at making music now, but what he feels is that the music isn't as good. It's not as musical because it's just very like cut and paste. It's like this goes with that, this goes with that. Technically it sounds great. Technically they're great at emulating, but are people good at making their own thing? And like on a mass scale, like there's fucking great artists out there, but on a mass scale, there's a lot more formulaic music that just works rather than the hit records that just are unbelievably good that no one can get away from because they're so good.
Yeah, the tools there's literally, you can like buy song templates.
Yeah,
from the companies that do sample packs.
Yeah.
And if you can like literally load up a template and just like change a little bit of everything and then legally release that, like that's literally by definition like the formula.
Yeah, man.
So you end up with a bunch of like similar sounding stuff.
Yep. And with the likes of Splice and all of that, there was always sample packs before, but sample packs were hard to get. Like it was a process to get sample packs into your computer, and it's like, I've got to go buy it and download it, or I've got to go put it on. I bought the CD. I've then got to put it in the CD burner and then go
or
through
the magazine.
Yeah, and then go through every sound and label every sound and kind of put it like now it's easy. It's easy. I can download a preset and restart Serum and it's there, and I'm making fucking MK bass lines. Simple as that. And you're just like, fuck, like I didn't even have to do research on like the synth that it made. Like all I need to do is just type in like MK bassline or whatever. Like it takes the fun out of it. And I think that's why I like having a bit of hardware.
Yeah.
Because it's like, well, rather than finding a preset, like let's just load it up and just see what we can come up with. And maybe I'll go through presets on a hardware a little bit more, because it's just like gives you a bit more, it's just a bit more fun. You're actually pushing buttons and shit rather than just like aimlessly hoping for, like limitations for me is really key.
Definitely. It's like the first thing I tell people is like, don't buy anything for the next 2 years and get so good at what you have that it's just the ideas you're waiting for, not like fiddling with tools and stuff.
Yeah, get your money's worth out of everything.
Yeah, and I think having hardware kind of teaches you how to like perform a little bit.
Yeah.
In the sense of production, where like your songs feel like a performance in a way.
Yeah.
Whereas when and you can do this in software, it's just easier to like get into the habit with hardware because you're forced to.
Yeah, totally.
But I feel like that's kind of the difference in like the cookie cutter songs versus the non, is like, was it a performance or did it just like seem like a bunch of stuff stacked together with no like life or like personality?
Yeah.
But that's also like why I gravitate towards the genres that I play and make versus like more like loopy based stuff, just because it feels like there's more behind it.
Well, there is more behind it. Generally, there's more melodic. Like
is.
Yours is a much more melodical kind of, and there's much more music behind it, which
or just like even interesting sound design, like the Afterlife. I feel like right now they're almost like doubling back on Big Room in a way, but the sounds are so much more interesting and weird and cool that it's like everyone's cool with it, even though it's still like huge build up, huge drop. They just found a way to like do it in a way that you're still exposing people to like new sounds. And I feel like it's either you write good music and you do melodies or whatever, and it's the musicality that drives it, or you're still blowing people's mind with like just the sounds coming out of the speakers.
You're going to hate me for saying it, but it's just trance.
Oh, 100%. I'm not like an Afterlife fanboy by any means.
Yeah.
Like it's Big Room, it's trance. I'm only glad that it is darker and the sounds are weirder, because that's opening up that mainstream audience to the music that we make. And like it's just top of the funnel. It's a better top of the funnel than David Guetta was.
It's different as well, isn't it? I think it hits a different demographic, but like they all coincide with each other because they're so big. Like when Black Coffee does a record with David Guetta, like Black Coffee's crowd isn't a David Guetta crowd, but they are now.
Yeah.
Kind Music, those boys, like now they produce Drake's album. Their fans probably weren't Drake fans, but they are now.
Yeah.
Or vice versa.
But I think, I mean, maybe it's just the times have changed and you can't compare them, but I'm happier that Kind of Music and Black Coffee and Afterlife are driving the next generation versus whatever Swedish House Mafia was. But maybe at the time I wouldn't have had that.
Have you heard Swedish House Mafia's new album?
No.
Mate, go listen to it. It's fucking amazing.
Really?
It's insane.
I'll do it.
It was on my top albums of listening this year.
Wow.
In Spotify.
Okay, that's an endorsement.
Yeah, like hands down, very, very well done record album. And like
I'll listen to it.
Like even the commercial one with The Weeknd, right? I'm not a huge fan of The Weeknd at all. Like the record they did with him is my favorite Weeknd record.
Wow.
Okay. but maybe it's not generally for you. I don't know. I don't know what you listen to on a daily basis.
I listened to the weirder like electronica stuff.
So like maybe, but like listen to it in the car driving or loud in the studio, and sonically you'll be like, fuck, I get this. This is very well done, and like it's solid music. But yeah, even I think what happened is the market changed and good cool music became commercial.
Yeah.
Which is great.
Yeah. It's good for pretty much everyone except David Guetta.
Mate, David Guetta's doing
but even
perfectly fine.
He's crushing it. Yeah.
When you sell your back catalogue for $110 million, I think.
Jesus Christ.
I think you're good. And also, not to forget, David Guetta was fucking banging out underground club records 10 years ago, 15 years ago.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's like no one's ever there. It's very few and far between people that are like actively selling out with that intention. It's more about they're so big that the money comes to them. And then at that point, it's like a different conversation of like, well, what's your next move? And it's like, well, I can't keep doing this underground stuff because there's 20,000 people at my shows.
Yeah. I'm all for selling out. I don't like the word selling out because I think it's like you just got successful.
Yeah, I agree.
To a certain extent.
To me, it's more about like, are you still being authentic?
Yeah.
Like if you like I once talked to Oliver like many years ago at Holy Ship, and we were talking about like working with Bruno Mars and doing like pop records, and I was like, that's kind of lame. They're like, not really. Like if Michael Jackson wanted to make a record with you back in the 80s, would you have said no? And I'm like, yeah, I guess you're right. Like,
yeah, it's the coolest thing ever.
Yeah, like the opportunities are changing, and to say no on the basis of ego is kind of immature, I guess.
Well, and I think also it goes back to that thing is like, what would your fans like? I had it like the last. I don't like talking about it, but the last like Escape KX5 I wrote, and
really,
yeah, there was 4 of us that wrote it, and it's like not many people know about that, but it's like it's still like it's. And I've wrote pop things as well that people don't know about. And I think it just changes you as an artist. I played with Calvin Harris in Ibiza this year. And I listened to him, and then every record he played was his, and every record he played that was his that he did play, and he played every record of his, every song, and every record had been a #1 record.
Insane.
And then you're like, oh wow, I now know why you sell out stadiums. And it completely changed my aspect on the music industry and how I want to be, on how I want to write music and how I look at the fans.
Yeah. I've been thinking a lot about like writing for other, well, I mean, I already have done a lot of like mixing and mastering, co-production, but trying to do just straight up songwriting for other people. I feel like it's a cool outlet to kind of get it out of your system and not worry about like, how does this affect my project or my sound or whatever? Because it doesn't at all. Gary, shh, be quiet.
Is your dog called Gary?
Yeah.
Such a good name.
Like the SpongeBob snail.
Yeah, man. I think do as much as you possibly can and take every opportunity. Not anything is going to come from every opportunity, but take it, because you never know what's going to come out of it.
Yeah, and like if it helps you pay the bills too, and takes the stress off of your main project or whatever, I feel like that's a miracle.
Yeah, I think like you look at the kind of music guys and what happened to them from like they have their cool thing going on. They were cool as fuck and they were making great fucking music, really good music. And then you produce Drake's album, your life changes.
Yeah.
Like financially, but also because Drake is the hottest artist in the world, everybody wants a piece of you. So you have offers coming out of your fucking ears and you can go yes and no to whatever you want.
Mm-hmm.
It's a wild situation we're in at the moment. It's really amazing. It's really amazing.
Yeah. I love spectating on it and just like sitting back and being like, this is fucking crazy.
Same. Who would have thought it? It's like got very cool. A lot of cool, like look at Beyonce. I don't know. How do you feel about the Beyonce Grammy thing? Getting nominated.
I'm not surprised because of the press about it being like a revival, but like it was not a revival at all. Very much like bandwagon hopping.
Yeah.
My like biggest pet peeve is when people say stuff is innovative and it's not, because like say it's good when it's bad. Like that's cool. That's marketing. But like the innovative thing, like that's the last thing that like artists get to keep for themselves, is like I'm actually paving new ground. And I don't think like that it was really doing much for that.
I think as much as success Beyonce's had, she's gone past the innovative part of her career, where she's just not making. She will never make something that will turn the heads of people to a certain extent. Maybe she will, I don't know, but it's not like it's not like she's a new artist doing something new and interesting.
It would have to be such a left turn that it's like, is that even still her at this point?
Yeah. Which I would love if she did that. I'd absolutely love if she did that. But it's got to be successful because there's a lot of people on her payroll.
Yeah.
Simple.
I think that's like why people like Billie Eilish like blow up, is because they can do it without the stress of having to satisfy a lot of people or a label. They just show up with something that's already innovative, and then it becomes huge.
I love what she's done. Yeah, it's fucking crazy.
It's dope though that a lot of like house producers or just like electronic producers are now the pop superstars.
Yeah.
Or the pop producer superstars, where like the weird noises we make and modular synths and like all that stuff is like literally the forefront of pop music.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Like I can hear a song on the radio and be like, I can make that with my modular synth, and he probably did too.
Yeah, it's really interesting. For us in the UK, it's been more so like that for a longer time.
That's true.
Because electronic music's always been, we've always have house records in the charts, always.
Yeah.
But yeah, with the coolness side of it, I don't think. Yeah, it's really interesting. Really interesting what's happening, and we're in a good position, definitely.
I hope so.
What have you got on for the rest of the year? This is coming out in January, by the way, so we're in the future. But what have you got on plan for the year?
So some dates are still falling into place, but I've got a Factory 93 one, that crazy techno record that I sent you a while back, coming out in March.
Sick.
Hopefully, so I've got a remix that I probably shouldn't say for who, but like one of my all-time favorite singer-songwriters that I've always wanted to remix. Finally locked that in.
That's dope.
Hopefully it might be out by the time this comes out. It might be just about to come out. I'm not sure.
Okay.
Yeah, and then just a bunch more records this year. I think this 2023 is going to be a bit heavier. Club records a lot. So far, a lot of the ones that we've signed and that are coming out, it's heavy club-based stuff. But
that's dope.
Yeah.
Sick, man. How can people follow you?
At Enamour Music, pretty much every platform.
How do you spell that?
Yeah, Enamour. Like
what does it mean?
It's the English spelling of Enamour.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's like that. It means like to be like deeply in love with something, or like, you know, enamored by it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I guess the only other thing is that I'm still going to be doing my Patreon in January if you're a producer, and I do walkthroughs of like all my tracks, videos, a lot of really good educational stuff.
That's cool. What was the process of setting that up?
They're pretty helpful, and especially if you're like a music creator with like an actual following already.
Yeah.
They'll like even walk you through it over email, but you just kind of set up like certain benefits, whether it's like videos, merch, unreleased songs, mixes, just talking with them. and you just, you can set up the tiers, and it's all pretty straightforward. And I've linked mine to my Discord, so that's where like the community chats and everything. But yeah, I record a lot of my production sessions. And I just, I've always kind of been an educator, I think, since the last couple of years. So it's just kind of been a natural progression to start like bundling up the videos and the content and the blog posts, and just like offering it to fans who want to support me. And maybe they're producers, maybe they're not, but there's just a lot of cool content. Awesome, it's also a cool way to release songs that you don't want to put on Spotify or can't, but still want to share with your fans.
It's a vibe. I've debated about doing it for the podcast and then kind of tying in like merch or tying in other records, but they hit me up and asked me to do it, but I just haven't done it yet.
Yeah, there's like a lot you can customize and do, but like you don't have to do that much if you just want it to be like the bare bones.
Yeah,
but it's really cool, like seeing some of the progress. Like mine's very production focused, but seeing the progress some of these people have made is like mind blowing. And like if I had a label, I'd want to sign some of these records. So it's just seeing the community grow and like the people develop has been really awesome.
That's awesome, man. It's awesome. Yeah. So how do you sign up for that?
It's just patreon.com/Enamour. And then there's like a bunch of different tiers. And if people have questions, they can DM me on Instagram. I read all my messages still.
Sick. Good man. That's what I like to hear. Thank you so much for coming on. I've really enjoyed this conversation, man.
Yeah, dude.
Really
thanks.
Enjoyed
Good seeing you again.
Yeah, you too, man. Keep safe. And I'm actually in LA in January, so let's go for some food.
Yeah, definitely. Or come over and we'll cook something.
Yes, let's do it.
Yeah.
Let's do it.
Oh, yeah.
Sounds good, man. Keep safe, big love, and look after yourself.
Cool. See ya.
Thanks, love that. Hope you enjoyed it. Big love to everybody for listening. Big love to Enamour for coming on the show. Please hit subscribe. Please get involved and share it with your friends and everyone. Keep safe. See you soon.